Welcome to our free online lesson. Right, so for today's topic that I would like to share with you is AutoCAD parametric modeling. So we're going to take a look on these parametric tools inside of AutoCAD. Right, so this will be the agenda for today. So we're going to take a look at parametric constraint tools. So on the right side here, we can see these samples of sketches that we input some parametrics tools over here. Right, so what is parametrics? What is constraint tools? Constraint tool is a tools that will constrains your drawing. So we can say as is locking your drawing. For example, if I want to lock from one point to another point, so I can use these constraint tools and it will lock that particular point. So if I try to break it up, so I cannot unless I delete the constraint. Right, so we have several other constraints. So let's take a look on these three sides that I'm going to show you. Okay, first one we have the geometric constraints. So this is the constraint that we can use. For example, the first one we have over here is what we call as concentric constraint. So this one I can use this to lock from one point to another point. So you can see this blue dot over here has been locked. So this is will be the concentric constraint. So it will lock this line from this point. So we have other 12 other geometric constraints that we will show with you later on one by one. So the next one we have the dimensional constraint. So this one we can use to lock the size, right? So by the name of this, which is called as dimension, right? So it will use the dimensioning to lock this particular size, for example. Right? For example, I have these particular lines that I would like to lock on certain sides. For example, I just use these linear constraints and put on these two sides, on these 2 points, and it will show me these dimensions, which I can type in the value that I want. And for example, if I type 450, so this line will be locked on 450. So if I try to manually edit these lines, so if I try to drag it out, so it will still lock on that particular size. Right, so we have some other dimension as well. And then the third one, we're going to take a look at the manage for the parameters manage. So this is a little bit involved with the dimensions. Right, so for those who already use or have used Inventor before, you should be familiar with the constraint tools. So the constraint tool is actually the main part of the Inventor. So but right now we can also use the constraint tool in AutoCAD as well. Now, before I show you the constraint tool inside of AutoCAD, so one thing to make for you to notice is that the AutoCAD, the full AutoCAD, right? So the constraint tool is only for the full AutoCAD, right? So if you're using the AutoCAD LT, so you cannot actually create a new constraint tools. However, you can still import the file, the drawing that already have the constraint tools, and you can still edit from the AutoCAD LT. But you cannot create a new dimensional or maybe geometric constraint inside. Right, so let me show you. Let me change my AutoCAD. So I believe, okay, right. Okay, so this is the first examples that I have. So welcome, Dino Ching. So this is the first, right, so this is the example that I have over here. So I have some models that I would like to show you on how we can use the parametric constraints. So from the home tab over here, so if you want to go to the parametric tools, so you can go to the parametrics tab over here, and you can see some others option that we can apply on. So we have the geometric constraints, so we have the dimensional, and also the manage. For you, for those who use the AutoCAD LT, so you don't have these particular geometric constraints or dimensioning tools that you can apply. However, you can still see or hide the constraints. So if you receive a file that already have constraints, you can still manage it. So you can still edit the constraints. However, you cannot create a new file from AutoCAD. Right, so let me show you the first one on the geometric constraints. So we have about 12 geometric constraints that we can apply from here. So welcome, 8012. Right, so let me show you. I have made some box so you can see the example much clearly. So the first one constraint that we have, which is the considering constraints from here. So if I go over here, you can also see the example from here. So considering constraint, what it does is actually log the point to another point. Right. So for example, if I have this line over here, so I have this 3 point over here, which I can log from this point to the next point. Right. What I can do is that I can just simply use the considering constraints. So I can just simply click at this point. So you can see this red symbols appears over here. So this one indicate the point that I can select. So and then I'm going to select to the next one over here. So you can see once it touch, it will create this dot here, indicates this one has already been constrained. If I hold my mouse, it will show me the constraint, the considering constraint symbols over here. Now, the difference is if I just simply select this one and lock this one, I can still move it out. So you can see it is not actually locked. But if I were to try to move this one out, you see this line still connecting, right? It is actually locked together, even though it is not actually a polyline, right? So this is one of the example that I can use. So basically, if I want to lock, I just pick this point, say I pick from this point to this point, and then I can just pick this point, and it will lock this point over here. Now let's try to make some example over here so you can see what will happen. So if I pick this point to this point, connect this one, so you can see it is connected. So I can just continue to connect it, and you can see it is automatically also changed. So I can just simply continue to connect over here. Now, when I connect, you can see since some of this does not have the constraint tools, so I try to connect, it will try to break. Now, I also have the abilities to automatically constrain everything. For example, I have this line, two lines connected together. So I don't want to apply manually from here. So I can just use to go to auto constraints. So the AutoCAD Parametrics will allow you to automatically constrain everything that has been shown over here. So it will assume this one will be have the constraint over here. So let's try to auto constrain everything. So select auto constraints, select everything from here, press enter, and it will apply all of the constraints from here. So including some other constraints that I haven't shown you yet. Right? So I just simply just move the constraint and simply lock, and it does not actually break from the point that does not have constraint yet. Now, one thing that you also notice when we using the constraints is that we have these symbols over here. So many symbols that you might not want to see. So you can also hide it if you want. So if I go over here, so I have this cross button over here. So I can click this one and it will hide, right? So you just does not delete, but it just hide that particular constraint I don't want to see, right? So I can also hide all from here. So I just pick over here and we will automatically hide every constraint I want. So if I just over my mouse again, so you can see it's still show me this constraint is actually still here. Now what happens if I does want to delete it, right? So no problem. So for example, if I go back to over here, so I have some constraints. So let me show back. Right, so this constraint button. So what I can do is that I can go ahead on this icon, right click, and I can select delete. So you can see this blue button has been gone, so which indicate the constraint has been deleted from over there. Now if I want to easily delete, I can also use from the manage tab. So I have delete constraints, which I can just simply delete from the selection box, and it has been deleted. Right, so constraint is a basic constraint. So let's take a look at other constraints that we have. Right, so next one we have collinear constraints. So what this does is that it will constrain, or we can say that it will lock this line into this line, which the same angle and also the same level. Right. So you can see from this icon over here. So I click over here for this collinear, select this line and select this line. So you can see it is actually locked on the same angle. So if I try to rotate, it's same angle, and also it is actually a straight line. Right. So I cannot move it on another level. Right. So this is basically collinear. I can use another one and it will automatically lock from that constraints. Right, so the next one we have concentric constraints. So this is quite simple actually. So what it does is that it allows you to automatically share the center points for the circles. So I have these two circles over here. I want to move this one to the next one. So instead of I just pick one, move this one manually. So I just click at this concentric tools, pick this one and pick another one. Automatically you can see it is actually combined together the same center points. I also show the symbols for each of these individual shapes. So the next one we have the fix. So fix is where you can directly lock. Does not have specific things that you need to do. Just lock on that position. For example, I have this 3 point over here. I want to lock this line. So if I try to move, it's still able to move. So I can use these fixed constraints. Just pick these points. Or if I try to move, so this particular point cannot be moved. Right? So the other point I can still move, but the other one that I have fixed, that one does not move. Right? So if I apply another one over here, so we have two constraints. So for both sides, so this one is fixed permanently over here. Right? So you can still delete if you need to delete. Just use function. Right, so that is for fixed. Then we have the parallels constraints. So parallels almost the same with the collinear that we have over here. However, the parallel only allow you to constrain for the angles. However, it does not actually it does not actually combine the same level, right? So if you want to have the same angle, so you can use parallel constraints. So just apply over here, so you can see it is actually the same angle. So if I try to rotate over here, you see both has been changed, right? It's remain as parallel. So besides the parallel, we have the perpendicular constraints. So perpendicular, what it does is basically just create 90 degrees. I have this line of cross over here, which I want to be perpendicular, or what we say as 90 degrees. I just pick this perpendicular, pick these two lines, and automatically, yeah, 90 degrees. Right. So next we have the other tools. So quite similar. We have the horizontal and also the vertical constraints. So what it does is basically it will align the line over here into the horizontal or vertical constraints. So you can also use the auto. For example, if I use auto and I try to make lines over here, and you can see it is automatically locked into the automatically draw the horizontal and vertical, but it does not actually lock. I can still move. All right, welcome, David. So for the parametrics, what it does is that it is allow you to automatically lock. So if I use my horizontal constraint, select this line, automatically it will change into horizontal line. Right? And I cannot try to rotate it. It is locked horizontal, and same goes to verticals. Right? So if you have some lines that you forgot to use the auto, so you can use the vertical and also horizontal constraints. Right, so let's move to the bottom over here. So we have tangent constraints. So this is allow you to create tangency between these two items over here. Right. So for example, I have this line circles over here that I would like to constrain. So I use these tangents. Right. So I just pick this line, pick the circles. So you can see it is actually now locked on this surface over here. Right? So if I try to move, it still remain locked on that particular surface. Right? So if I try to make it big, you can see it's still on the surface. The same goes to both circles, and also circles also works. Use these two, and you can see it is now tangent between these two circles. So that is the tangent constraints. So next we have the smooth constraints. So this is quite simple. So I believe not many applicable use. However, it does allow you to smooth the transition between the splines and also the straight line. So for example, if you have the spline and you also have the straight line, and you can see over here, it does not actually have a smooth transition between these two. So what I want is that when this line connected this to the spline, so it will move much smooth. Right? So I just use these smooth constraints. So pick this one, and pick this one, and automatically it will able to smooth. Right? So let me do it one. Use these tangents. Select this one and select this one. Oops, select this one. So let me try again. Smooth constraints. So supposedly this one should be able to, right? So you can see it's now actually translate very smooth from this plan into this straight line. So next we have the symmetric constraints. So what symmetric does is that almost the same with the mirror, it will lock the position into a mirror state stretch. For example, I have this straight line over here, which will be these symmetrical lines. And then I have these two objects over here that I would like it to be same, almost like a mirror. So I can use symmetrics. So first of all, I pick these two objects over here, and then I pick this line over here. So automatically, it is now locked like a mirror. So if I try to move, you see it is actually. So same goes to lines. I can also pick the line and pick the symmetric line, and it will automatically move like a mirror. Lastly, we have equal constraints. So this is quite simple and also very useful. So you can use equal to automatically equal the size, right? So you can change the size equally. So for example, I have these different types of circles over here, which different types of size that I would like to resize it. Everything will be equal. So I use equal constraints. I select this one, and then I select this one and also this one, and all of the selected equal will be locked together. So if I try to move, and if I try to change the size, you can see the size remain the same. So same goes with the lines as well. Right, so I want the same size, and just there and here as well. Right, try to make it longer. Everything has been changed. Right, so that is basically for the geometric constraints. So let's take a look on another things, which is the dimensional constraints. Right. So I have this line, which is not actually very straight line, so I can use other geometric constraint from here. Let's try to fix that one. All right, so I use the vertical constraint. So you can see it is now locked vertical. Maybe this one I want to be straight line horizontally, so I use horizontal constraints. Right. So same goes with others AutoCAD tools. You can press enter to continue uh, to, to continue using the same tools. Right. So I can use this constraint to redo that again instead of repeat that one on this button. So you can see if I try to move, it does not actually break. So since I have many constraints I have applied over here, it will still lock together. Right, so let's start to move with the dimensional constraints. So for the dimensional constraints, so we have some other few things that we can use from here. So starting with the linear constraints, I can use this one to lock this particular size over here. So for example, I have this size. Right, so let's say I want this one to be 450, set the value, press enter, and the line has been locked to 450. So if I try to edit this one, so I've tried to make it large, so you can see it's still the same length. So that is actually allow me to lock. Now let's try to make it a little bit larger, so I can use this. Let's say I want it to be 470, so it's much larger. So I can also apply some other constraints. So I want to have the same size, so I can use these equal constraints. So everything will have the same size, right? And I can also use the dimensional constraints. For example, I have other types of lines, for example, a line. So, for example, if I just simply directly use the linear for this angle line over here, what it does is actually it does not actually create exactly the line over here, but it gives me this line for horizontal or also for the vertical, and also the horizontal line. Right, so I can use this one as well if I want to. So it's 0. Maybe I want the line, the lines to be the height of 0, so I can use that. But if I want to have these lines directly from this point until this point, so I can also use a line. So I can pick a line, pick this point, and then pick another point from here. So you can see I have the exact value for this particular line, not for the x, but also y axis. Here and just enters the value of zeros, and it's locked there. And that will be the line. So I can also use line on this straight line also. But when I use a line, it's allow me to change the angle. So I will still have this exact value from this. Right? So for example, if I try to change the angle, so it will still change the angle for this line constraints. All right, so next we have some other dimensional constraints as well. So we have radius. If you want to input the radius from there, so I can use this radius from here. Let's say I give it about 20 radius. Now I have also for these diameters. If I don't want to use radius, I can also use diameters. So I'll use diameter from here. Press enter. So everything that has been put radius as well. So if I try to change, it will automatically change as well. So let's say if I put around 7. So both has been changed. So but not these two. So I can still use equal to make both of these change as well. Right. So then we also have the angular constraints. Right. For example, I want to have some angles from here, so I can just pick these two and I can give it an angle from here. Let's say 130, and we have the angle has been locked from here. Right. So if I try to move the angles, it does not allow me to move it. Right. So if you want to fully constrain your object, so you can also use that by using all of the parametrics available from here. For example, if I have this box over here, right, so this one can still be moved, right? So I can use my parametrics to lock this constraint from here. E50, for example. So you can see I have some other things that have been changed from here. So I can continue to lock. say 475, and I want this line to be same with this line, so I can use my parallel constraints, and it will constrain this one, and also I can apply for this perpendicular constraint, so it does not actually change. Right, so this one has been locked but not yet permanent. So I can also lock this one into some point. For example, I have some points from here. Right, so inside of a inventor, usually we have the origin points will be this okay, so this XY axis. Right, so the UCS, but however the UCS on AutoCAD does not lock, but I can still use my point over here by using the draw, and I can use from my parametrics to lock using these fixed constraints. So I lock this point. So this point does not move anywhere. I cannot move it. And I can use this point to lock this line. So I can use my linear constraints to lock this line over here. So let's say 170. Then apply for another one. Or the distance, let's say 300. And right now I'm still able to see some of this does not yet have the lock. For example, this angle, so I can just use my leftover sides to constrain. For example, I use horizontal. Now it is being locked to horizontal, and also for this one. Right, so I believe this one has been fully locked. So if I try to move this one, it is not able to move because it has been fully locked. Right, so you can also fully lock your file if you want to do something like this. So you can easily change from here. So for example, I want to change the value from here, so I just change the size, say 6. Right, so able to change much more control. Right, so that is the thing that you want that you do if you want to fully lock. Right, so that is the dimensional constraints. So again, you can also show and hide the constraints. So I don't want to see all of my dimensional, so I can hide all, so it will turn off. So I can turn back on. Same with this dimensionals. So lastly, let's take a look at the manage. Right, so if I go to the parametric managers over here, so I can see this one has been created. For example, some of this dimension over here. Right, so I have the dimension for D1. So if I click over here, it will show me this one. So if I try to change the value from here, I also can do that from here. Let's make it a little longer for 9 zeros. So you can see I can actually manage my dimension from here. Right, maybe I want to change my angle, so I can select my angle from here and change the value from here. Right, so let's take a look on what other things that we can do from here. Is that you can also create some parametric rules. For example, let's take a look at some example from here. Or let me just make some simple drawings so you can see much more clearly. Right, so I'm going to apply some of the other tools from here, some other constraints from here. So go to metric. So let's say auto constraints. So also this has been constraints. Right. So the next thing, the last thing that have not yet constrained, which is the dimensional constraints. Right. So what I can do is that instead of I just use my linear constraint from here, I can also apply, make it the dimension from here first, and then apply from here. So I can use here, for example, I want new parameter. So I click over here. Let's say I just name this one as a base. Right, and then I input the value over here. Let's say I'm going to give it around 200. Right. So the next thing is I already have my parameters over here. So I use my dimension constraint for linears. So pick these 2 points. So instead of manually type in the value that I needed to, so I can just simply directly type in the name, the base that I want. Right, so base, press enter, and it will automatically use this particular base for this DX9 over here. Right. So if I apply again over here, so let's see. Right, so when I apply, another thing that you may notice is that we have the name in front of here. So the name is D10. So each of our dimension has its own name. I can rename this one from here as well if I want to. Let's say I just name this one as thick, and I give it the value for this thick around 60 center, and it will show me this thick name and the value over here. Right, so if I create right away from new, it will show under this user parameter, but if I use dimensional first, it will show under this dimensional. Now, the best thing is that about these parameters that we have over here is that I can actually create some rules. Example, I use this line over here. Now, I want this line to be double the thickness over here. So what I can do is that I can just type in the name. So I just type in the thick names, and I want to be double of thicks. So I just times 2. Right, so thicks times 2, press enter, and it will automatically calculate from me. So this one will be 160, 120. Right, so basically double the size of it. So if I edit from here, change, let's say 50. So this one will automatically change the thickness from here as well. Right, so I can use other types of mathematics rules. So I can plus, minus, I can divide, I can also times the value for these particular units. Right, so I can use there, for example, let's say I want this base to be 1/3 of base. Right, so I can just name this one and put the value base, and I want to divide it by 3. So you can see it is now divided by 3, the value. Right, so as basically that is it. That is some of these simple things that I would like to share with you about the parametric rules inside of the AutoCAD. So right now I will open for Q&A session. So if you want, so if you have any question, you can just type in on the chat, and I will try to answer your question. So you can also unmute yourself if you have any questions. Right. So while waiting for question, I will also share with you guys about our websites. For example, if you want to visit our websites, so you can go to any browser that you want. For example, let me share you one of the browser that I have over here. Right. So to go to our website, so you can just type in on this address toolbar over here on any browser. Just type in AutoCADsystems.com, press enter, and it will bring you to our main landing page over here. So you can see some of our information, such as our phone numbers. Right, so you can scroll down. So we have some other information like promotion and also news. So scroll down again. So we have some weekly event, which is the FOL or webinar that we call as FOL. So if you're interested to join some more, so you can just click and apply from there. Right. So if you want to have some agent chat with our live agent, so you can go to this button over here. Right. So if you have any questions, so you can just type in on the live agent chat, and we will entertain. Right. So that is basically what I would like to share with you. Right. So one last thing, so if you also have any other question or maybe some support issue that you would like us to support you, so you can go to our help desk system. You can go to AutoCAD system new help desk from here. And here, what I can do is that you can continue as a guest, right? And you can type in any other information that you have. For example, if you want to ask us to help you to install AutoCAD, so just type in on the subjects, need AutoCAD installations, and just put your name, address, and others informations. And the description over here, you can just type in what types of AutoCAD that you want, or maybe what types of PCs. Maybe you just want some questions, so you can just type here, and some other question, and just send it. Right. So that is basically what I would like to share with you guys for today. So I believe we have no more questions. So for that, I will end my session until here. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And I hope I can see you guys again on our next episode. Right. So thank you, and still see you.